I'm sure you will agree that Professor Lučka Bogataj was really amazing. Her lecture was fantastic, and as one of her slides said, good planets are hard to find, which means we need to take better care of the one we have. But you also heard her saying that there is no such thing as green growth, as growth is wiping green off the earth. So before coming back to that, let me show you what Sabine and Raquel, our fabulous graphic harvesters, captured from the 2021 Schumpeter lecture. We can hear, oh, wonderful graphics, beautiful. So there's a little sum up of everything Lučka said as well on Monday. On Tuesday, Thierry Breton, the commissioner, and our ministers, Zdravko Počivalšek, opened the assembly, and we all heard a very passionate speech from Christoph Leitl, who said we need action, and he spoke about the responsibility of entrepreneurs for our society. I'm sure that not everybody would agree with what Lučka Bogataj said about green growth, and this is why we discussed here in this room with top economists what needs to be done for the transition to a more sustainable economy. Professor Friederike Welter from the Bonn University said we need to embrace sustainability as an opportunity, whilst Ute Stephan mentioned the need to learn from crisis entrepreneurship. And we have seen a lot of this these last months. The program yesterday was very dense, as you would all agree, so let me therefore just pick a few things for you. So to continue with sustainability, let me mention the workshop on the European mission to restore our ocean and waters. This is work in progress and will not be done by tomorrow. So just like the graphical recording we have here. If we like the coastline, which we can see from this room as well, this is the beautiful bay of Piran just in front of us, then we better contribute to this work in progress. Our water and our waters need our commitment and protection. All this we can't achieve without or against our businesses. Only with them we'll be able to achieve our goals. And they can only achieve this if we pay them on time, if we protect their intellectual property rights, and if we find new ways of working, issues which we discussed in workshops yesterday. And obviously, let's not forget the small and mid-caps and also the Enterprise Promotion Awards. We have some beautiful pictures from yesterday coming up as well. So many excellent companies, so many excellent projects, beautiful people around me. And tell me, did you enjoy everything so far? Oh, yeah. Oh, we have 2 people more. Keep up the good energy. And now just a few words, and then I finish, about today's program. So we have 4 sessions coming up, 4 sessions you can choose from, and they will take us up to 10 a.m. when we will enjoy the youth essay competition. This is really something you shouldn't miss. And you get a chance as well to vote for this year's winner. But first, if you remain here with me in the convention hall, we have a workshop entitled ESG for SMEs, Beyond the Bottom Line. While in the Emerald 1, we'll be debating the transfer of business, and over in Emerald 2, there's a workshop on European scale-up firms in focus. And finally, in the Mediterranean, we have a masterclass called SME Support under the new multi-annual financial framework. So for you watching online, please make your choice as well. And everybody else, I'll see you at 10 a.m. To see who will win the youth essay competition.
Excellent. Well, welcome everybody for our session. Just take a seat, Daya. We'll come to you in a moment. Welcome everyone to the session on environmental, social, and governance for SMEs. What we're talking about sometimes is known as ESG, and I was like, oh my God, this is a lot of acronyms we're talking about today. And while most of us might know what that ESG stands for environmental, social, and governance, do we really know what that means? It's oftentimes used in the context of criteria and reporting. And let me tell you, this concept isn't actually particularly new. It's been around for 20 odd years, goes back to the 1990s when businesses started talking about the triple bottom line. This idea that in addition to reporting on their financial performance, they also should report on their environmental and social performance. And so this led us to impact investment, this led us to sustainability reporting, and in the meanwhile, there's been a lot of developments in this field. But all of this development has been mostly in the context of big business. So I am really excited today that we get to talk about how we can make ESG relevant for small and medium enterprises. How can we make sure that it's not an additional cost that we have, but really a benefit? And also, how can we create a support ecosystem that makes it easier for SMEs to benefit from this type of reporting, from this type of engagement with environmental, social, and governance criteria? And I'm really excited to be joined today by an excellent panel for this topic. Who we have with us is Daniel Truren, who's the Director General from EBBF, Ethical Businesses Building the Future. And I don't see Daniel on there right now, but yes, absolutely, you're behind me. That's the solution. How are you doing, Daniel?
Doing great. I bring sunshine from Madrid, wishing I was in Slovenia.
Excellent, welcome. We've got here with us in Porto Roche, Daya Wingent, who's the Sustainability Advisor for Editrain. How are you doing, Daya?
Looking forward.
Excellent. We've got here Diego Mingarelli, who is the CEO of Diasen, who's calling in from Italy today, and is one of the companies who early on decided to produce green building material. How are you doing today, Diego?
Good morning, everyone.
Good to see you. And we've got Helen Jacobs, who's the Sustainability Coordinator for the Flanders Chamber of Commerce, joining us from Antwerp. How are you, Helen?
Good morning, I'm good, very excited, thank you.
Excellent. So this is our panel. And what we've prepared for you is a couple of presentations that really get us into the topic of what is ESG, how can we apply it in the SME context, what are the benefits, and how can we build a supportive ecosystem. Afterwards, we would like to go into a conversation with you on these topics. And you already are familiar with the fact that we have 3 microphones in the room that you can stand up at and ask questions later. And also for our esteemed guests online, we have a chat, and Antonella Correra from the European Commission is already here waiting for your questions and comments, and we'll bring them into the room here. And with that, I think we're ready to start. So, Daniel, I think you will kick us off, and the questions that we asked you are, what are we talking about when we're talking about ESG, and why is this important for SMEs? And maybe how can we actually integrate ESGs into our business processes? Daniel, take it away. Overcoming our sound issues? There seems to be a mute issue here. The unmute button is at the bottom left corner of Zoom. Yes?
There we go. And
Perfect,
so basically,
thank you.
I'm just wonderful that you mentioned youth now, just now, and I think it's a great opportunity to actually have that concept around. But also, there's a lot of talk of youth, but I think everybody can really fit in and has a role to play in this, and that's so important at this moment. What I think is amazing is to be in Slovenia. As I said, I wish I could be there to actually be with you and to join this conversation, because Slovenia, as a small country, has to be innovative, now has to think of the best ways to progress on this. And so I will actually ask the people, the background people, to do the click for me. And if we click to the first of the slides, what we will see here is a concept, as we said, about what is ESG. It's environmental and it is social. So as simple as that, these are the two elements that really move forward these concepts of environmental, social, and the third element as a click is governance. And the idea here is to actually find a way through which these four elements come together. So as a company, as an organization, you're thinking of how can I push forward my environmental agenda? How can I be better in this sense? At the same time, how can I look after the people, the people in my company, my organization, the people I affect? There's this reciprocity in everything that we do. And very often we do not have time for this governance element. And especially in SMEs, I have no time to govern this. I'm just action, reaction. So how can I now embed such a complicated element of really having all those elements work together? And to me, that is really the challenge of the how we can make something magic. In the next slide, I'm just going to show you one element of data. I think you will find everywhere around the web as you do a little bit of search, just how much better your company would be if you do put the efforts into this ESG focus. Cost of capital, huge reduction in cost of capital if you have a sound sustainability standards actually embedded in your organization, your company. So definitely a worthwhile investment. The performance has been shown to increase by 88%. And my guess is because you're really making an effort, not just to do things as they are, but to really move forward, to really be innovative in this sense. And maybe it's not your case unless you go into an IPO, the share price, the revenue is always better when you do it that way. And to me, this is a mindset that is given a reward by numbers. So you will be a better company, you will be a more profitable company, but especially you will have a company with an amazing reputation that people will want to be working with, that people will be wanting to buy from, that people will be wanting to be a part of. Plus all the pressures that you see in the news every day about a new law, a new restriction. And as we move forward in this crisis of climate emergency, you will see more and more laws that will push you in that direction. But I'd like to talk more about the incentive of going forward. And if we look at the next slide, this is so obvious and so clear that you see that in a recent study done here in Spain with some of the lots of companies over here, 75% of companies indeed include ESG in their purpose. So that shows it's important, and therefore I would put in my purpose. But if we click to the next slide, we'll actually see that systems to actually integrate this ESG are basically almost non-existent. So there's a sense of, I guess we've moved from greenwashing, which is just talking about things, to green wishing, to wanting to, desiring to do something about it. But there's a gap. There's a huge gap. And that's really where the problem lies. How can we manage to put together the gap and to reduce this gap? And this knowledge of how my desire, my green wishing can put into practice is really, to me, the key element. I will offer you a very simple magic wand, which is measuring and focusing. Measuring on what's important and then focusing on what's important to really make a difference. I know of many, I think we all know of many measurement systems, but there's one that's online, it's free, is available to anybody, and over 100,000 companies have used it, so it cannot be that bad, which is the B Impact Assessment, which is called Measure What Matters. I do not want to go into detail to explain about it. It's an online resource, which to me does something that, if you click to the next slide, achieves three key elements that any such measuring should do. It should help the company to identify what is important. So if you go in this, there's 250 questions that tell you if you want to improve your governance, you do this, that, and the other, and it shows you a way forward. It shows you the how and the what you can go forward. It gives you ideas on how you can progress. And it gives you this measurement, this benchmarking. So if we go to the next slide, the big question is, how good is your company? All of you seated in the hall, how good is your company? Is it better than the person on the right or on the left? So this methodology actually gives a number to how good and to how sustainable this company is. And if we click to the next slide, we see this concept that basically says if you reach 80 points, which is really difficult, you're a company that makes the profits, but you're a company that detracts from society, is not really ESG compliant on the left. If you go above those 80 points, then you're both making a profit, which is what all SMEs should be doing, and contributing. So this methodology helps you to navigate from your low score to a higher score, theimpactassessment.net, and it's free and it is online. So in closing for my 5 minutes, to me, what matters most are two things: people and planet. It needs the strong governance, and it needs you to make it happen together with others. Thank you.
Thank you, Daniel. So what I'm really hearing here is that we have a lot of good intention in this space. A lot of companies want to do it, but the systems in order to really implement it aren't quite there yet. But a number of really good tools exist, and thank you for bringing in the B impact assessment, because that's certainly one of them. So, Daya, you're working as a sustainability advisor for EduTrain, and you're also working with a whole bunch of other tools that you will be presenting us. And kind of also what mindset it needs in order to really do it well.
This is our focus, actually.
Right.
So let me find my slides. Okay. I would like to stress in my presentation that for us, sustainability is a mindset. It's not just a regulation. And let me clarify what I mean by saying this. It's a very complex environment. There are a lot of standards, regulation, and guidance in relation to sustainability. We have EU taxonomy, a very useful guideline. We have GRI standards. We have SDG, well-known goals. Now they are coming around lately, this SEG criteria already mentioned. And also the new directive is coming up next year, and hopefully it will standardize also this environment for SMEs, because it's quite complex for them to understand, and this is our feedback from them. But what we focus on is not just about reporting, but to make a mind shift from we need to do it to we want to do it. We don't need to just comply with the standards and do reporting. We need to change the sustainability culture, the goals, and the management should walk the talk. And I would like to share with you 2 examples what we are doing with our clients. So the first one would be we organize facilitated interactive workshop for top management, and it's a 1-day workshop. And we align the top management around what are their crucial goals, what is material for them. And you can see the photos here. It's an impression on this kind of session, and what is the end goal, that they get aligned, what are their priorities, and set up the fundamentals. And the other very useful tool for engaging employees is organizing sustainability hackathon, like company innovation day. You can engage employees to share their ideas, and in this way you also embrace the sustainability culture, and it's a very useful tool to use it. But I would like to stress that I believe that CEOs and management already see the benefits of this sustainability and SEG focus, and there are several. They can attract investors. Most of the investors, more than 80%, they say, already include SEG criteria in their investing decisions. You can attract customers, especially eco-aware customers, and millennials. They care about this, and they are also willing to pay more for the product and service with the sustainability focus. You can attract talent. People want to work with the company who has a purpose, a meaning, and you raise credibility in this way. And this is also for the company a competitive advantage on a long run. So, You can use a report for sustainability also as a communication tool for all these stakeholders to show the results, the efforts, how you build a sustainability culture, how you are trying to transform your business. Thank you.
Thank you, Daya. And I really like the point that you were making, that it's not just about the pulling the numbers together, but actually oftentimes the start of this is to actually get a number of the stakeholders together and actually talk about the issue.
Yes, and to embrace the culture. It's not about the compliance. It's a living thing, I believe.
Great, thank you. Diego, you have been working on ESG topics and with ESG reporting for a while in your company. I'd love to hear your experiences. How has your company worked with it? What benefits are you seeing? What challenges? And what do SMEs really need in this field?
Thank you. Thank you to give me the opportunity to share my experience and my vision about ESG. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm the president and CEO of a chemical company that manufacture ecological product for construction. 20 years ago, when we founded our company, we decided to bet on the sustainability. So we decided to use natural raw materials to enrich our products and to differentiate them and to innovate. I think that when SMEs are able to excel in uncrowded niche, they win. And for us, the sustainability has been the opportunity to find a way to be to compete in the world. We decided to use natural raw material. One material represents us a lot, is a cork. Everybody knows cork for wine industry. We decided to use a cork that is the bark of the cork tree, a lightweight material that we mix, we produce granulates that we use for our formulation that give to in the construction thermal insulation and give a great solution for the renovation. We use this cork that is recycled cork. So we are a perfect example of a circular economy. So for us to be a ESG company was a conscious choice, a choice of positioning and business. It has been a matter of our identity, not only a business model. And so with sustainability and with the ESG's values, now we are going to compete in the world. So sustainability has been the first pillar, but now we are investing a lot on the other pillars of ESG policy. The second one is the people. I'm talking from Marche, a small region of Italy, industrial region. I decided to bet on the local young people. And we decide to invest on their engagement, their knowledge, and we would like that they are well trained, well skilled to help us, our company, to compete in this challenge. So we have a governance based on inclusion, respect, engagement, involvement. The third pillar is the territory. For us, it's really important the relation with the stakeholder nearby. So, of course, we work with them to give value in our area, in our territory. So my vision of ESG is summarized in a word: globability. Not only global, but globability. That means the ability to act local, to think global. Ability that we have to train to compete in the world of the future.
Let me just ask you a follow-up question, Diego, because you've spoken a lot about the performance of your company in terms of environmental criteria, social and also governance criteria. What has been your experience with like the formal reporting of on those criteria?
We are a big corp, a benefit corporation.
Yeah.
So in the journey to get this certification, of course, we had the sustainability because it was a matter of our identity. But we decided to start a process of certification. And we found the standard, the Benefit Corporation and B Corp, that help us to find out the other pillars and to understand how our company can be the best in the ESG world. So in the journey of certification, we understand, we did assessment of all the process, and now, the ESG value are part of our company because we change the company statutes. So now it's not just a matter of, business model, but it's why our company has a position on the world and on the system. So the Benefit Corporation for us has been a great opportunity to understand better all the point to be one of the best ESG company. And so at least also we have done ESG reports.
Right. So really using such a system can really help to identify the many little details you have to pay attention to. Thank you, Diego. Helen, you are working with the Flanders Chamber of Commerce, and so your role is to support a whole bunch of SMEs in the process to apply those criteria. What is your experience? What do SMEs need, and how can we best support them?
Well, thank you. And I would first like to thank all of the other panelists too for setting the stage and sharing their experience, because I think what I experience adds to that very well. So happy to start on that note. So indeed, what we see from our experiences as a business network working with SMEs on the daily, we see actually that there are two priorities really for SMEs, be it on SDG or not. And I hope the people online and in the room can join me for that. But we see that, first of all, what they need really is support. SMEs have limited resources, limited personnel and time, and have to use that as effective as possible. So to ensure that they can follow any regulations or requirements, or to have them jump on the bandwagon, they need support, be it financial or be it content-wise. And then adding to that, I think clarity is crucial. This also adds to their limited resources, to their limited time, but it's crucial, and I think Diego will also be able to say this, but they need to know where they have to be, or where they have to invest in, or where they have to go for to be in the following years. And that is something that is crucial, and that is something that we are trying to work with them also to give them the clarity to work for. So if I can give a personal example here relating to ESG, for example, in Flanders, the government adds sustainability to its tenders, to the questionnaire. However, on the end of the complete cycle, there's only a marginal weight given to sustainability, which makes it completely confusing for companies to see how much weight do they give to it, how do they cope with it. So those are things that we try to work on and that we try to make clear with them. Now, when we go to regulations, to requirements, we see that there are a lot of them popping up across Europe, either from national governments,
We'll give her a chance to come back. Okay, we seem to have lost Helen for a moment completely, and so we'll hope that she will join us again in 5 minutes or so. And that means that while we're waiting for her, we'll just have to have a conversation. Okay.
Okay, I was out.
Have
apparently. Okay. Well, sorry for that.
We can hear you,
I
Helen.
think
It's okay.
okay. Perfect. My Zoom stopped. That's the disadvantage of not being in Slovenia, of course. One of the disadvantages, let's say. So to wrap this up, so I think it's important to provide enough flexibility and to provide realism. I don't think that regulations can be the same for SMEs or large companies, or at least not entirely. So the bottom line here is don't make the burden too high. And we're also there as a business network, as our other business networks around Europe, to work with governments, to work with Europe, to ensure that and to support SMEs in realizing that. So how can the business network help? Like I said, looking at ourselves, we see that a lot of SMEs come to us because they cannot see the forest for the trees anymore. Diego gave the example of B Corp, but we see both in Flanders, Belgium, in Europe, there are a lot of ESG requirements, a lot of possibilities, and SMEs often do not have the time, not have the personnel to see what is important for me. So we try to support them by providing that clarity, by also helping them meet the requirements to either providing training, setting up certain programs, or providing information. And I'd like to give a personal example of how we do this in Flanders, which is through the Voka Sustainable Business Charter. This is a personal coaching program where companies can join and where we guide them towards incorporating the SDGs in their day-to-day business. It helps them to build a sustainability policy and also helps them being able to meet the requirements from, let's say, those tenders or from possible investors. And it's a personal trajectory for each company. And as you can see, we have around 300 participants today, of which 2/3 are SMEs. So that really helps them see the forest for the trees here. And we also have a partnership with Unichar because we want to focus on the fact that they do not only meet national regulations or requirements, but also global ones. So that's how we try to focus on this. But I think my colleagues from business networks around the world are also working on this and try to support SMEs every single day. So for the people in the room, I'd say contact your local business network and ask how they can help you with that further. And thank you.
Great. Thank you, Helen. So that gives you a beautiful introduction into the topic, and I would like to just kind of extend the view into the entire room here, and I would love to invite you to think about your own experience with applying ESG criteria, either in your own context of an SME, or also in the role of someone who supports SMEs on their journey. What have your experience been so far? What are the challenges that you're meeting as you're trying to do this? And maybe what good ideas do you have for us to build a stronger SME network? And I'm seeing a person raise a hand. Great, so then I don't have to ask a stalling question. Please come up to the microphone and identify yourself.
Yes, good morning. My name is Wienand Kwaatvlieg. I'm representing the Dutch Confederation of SMEs here at the conference. Thank you for your introductions, which were very interesting. If I put the picture together, I think we are now confronted with two distinct but interrelated realities. I think one is that there is a massive effort in the business community, in SMEs, to move forward with sustainability. And there are lots of initiatives, lots is happening. It's really a new dimension developing. The other reality is that the EU at this moment is preparing mandatory legislation to force companies to do due diligence. And I think there is a really big worry developing, and I think that builds a lot on what Helen Jacobs just said, because when there is mandatory due diligence, you need clarity of the rules. You need to know as a business what you should do when you have done enough. Now, the basis of the legislation at this moment is only two voluntary international instruments, the OECD guidelines and UN guiding principles, which provide open norms which were deliberately drafted with a view to a voluntary instrument. And I think there is a real worry now in the SME community that if you translate these instruments into mandatory rules, that then there will not be clarity, and especially not for SMEs. So I think that is the main thing now that has to be addressed, how you can translate the norms into clear norms that at the same time are proportionate. Thank you.
Great. Thank you for identifying this challenge, because I think that's always been, and I'm seeing more hands in the room, it's always been one of the challenges with ESG, that on the one hand we have those who are already doing a lot of good and want to demonstrate that to distinguish themselves towards all the others. And then of course you have everybody, and you also want to make sure that everybody follows a certain level of governance and social, environmental, and governance standards. And in between, there's a space, and it's a decision that we can take as to where we place that bar. I know, Helen, you've already spoken.
If I can maybe make a comment on that, because Diego showed the way, right? He said he was not so much into regulation. He said, there's a market niche here, sustainability. I'm going to go for it. So maybe it's my half Italian side, but norms and rules is not what drives SMEs. SMEs want to be sustainable, as in financially sustainable. They want to have a great product and service. So sometimes we get a bit lost in the taxonomy. But really, the average SME just wants to remain afloat and be the best that they can. So to me, the more an SME prepares in a sustainability area, the more they will be prepared for whatever norms come up. Right now, spending a great deal of time for an SME on what norm may come up next I don't think it's really the way forward. The drive, the innovation, the insights, the effort should be becoming as sustainable as possible, and really seeing how we can do that in a meaningful and financially sustainable way. Rules will follow in a sense and will adapt. It's obvious that if you are more sustainable and prepared, also the numbers of the norms will actually fit with that. But companies that work trying to fit to the norms is not something that is very normal in the SME. I'm not sure, but maybe over there it's different, but it really goes in that kind of direction.
Yeah, so really when you work as a front runner, you have an opportunity, because then you're not as worried about the rules that come. I'd love to ask the question to Diego and maybe Daya. Where do you see the role of regulation here?
I totally agree with Daniel. For me, and from our experience, the main message is companies just get started. It will be easier to adjust in time your criteria and efforts you are doing, just to sit down and don't do anything because the standards are not standardized, because they are complex, and that you start from your starting point and to see what are your issues, which are a material for your industry, for your company, and it's a journey.
Mm-hmm. Diego, what's your wish for regulators on this issue?
Yeah, thank you. I'm also vice chair of SME Committee of Business Europe. And we have discussed a lot of time in that committee about, simplification, standardization. I think that there is a danger of over-regulation because in my opinion, we have to find a way, we have to be pulled by the market. So we have to work on the awareness on the market. And we have also to be careful about to have the same system of certification in Europe. Sometimes in terms of standards of material, standards of company, there are different rules in the different nations. We are Europe, and if we want to create the condition of the growing of SMEs, we have to find a way to have the same rules on the same fields. And this is really important for me. Think about the certification of sustainability of our materials. There is a standard, the life cycle assessment. It's international standard. There are no different from Italy to France to Germany. But sometimes there are burdens, local burdens, and a company has to do different LCA in the different country. This is not acceptable for SMEs. And we are going to create burdens and barriers and that can kill the opportunity of competition, to have a fair competition, and the opportunity of the growing of these companies. So, in my opinion, ESG is a great opportunity. Be careful to over-regulate this market because, first of all, it's a matter of culture. It's a cultural change of our SMEs that I don't believe a lot in laws on something that is pulled by a third part, but it's a process that has to start from the bottom. Thank you.
Great, thank you. So what I'm hearing is that there's a need for simplification. There's also a need for standardization, but that doesn't always need to be a governmental standardization in this case either. I have yes, the lady in the front, please.
So, thank you very much. My name is Daniela Bervarco-Tolenko. I also come from edutrain.me. And I would like to share with you a nice metaphor that we had over breakfast this morning. We said being ESG compliant is like the elephant in the room, right? We all see the elephant, but we cannot completely describe it. Now try to describe an elephant in detail. It's a never-ending story, right? So I cannot overemphasize the importance, and because there's no starting point and waiting for something, for one regulation to happen or having a rule on what to do and how to do it. So there's no starting point in time. What we need to do is actually say, okay, management, let's sit together. Let's engage our people. Let's do a couple of green innovation days in our company. Let us think about what can we do today, tomorrow. Because then you see, you can measure all those things in the future and then you see, okay, well, listen, we have done a lot. And actually everybody in the company can do something in terms of, you know, like decreasing the footprint and everything. It can be done today, but people need to feel it. They need to have that as a culture in the company. So it is utmost importance that we move from we must into we would like to. So this is where you can start tomorrow in every of your SME company. So I wish you luck.
Thank you. Also, thanks for raising this question of how can SMEs actually get started on this journey? Because I think, especially when you haven't engaged with this can feel very, very overwhelming. So the question is, you know, do you start with stakeholder engagement? Do you start with a full-on audit, going through all the B Corp criteria? Or do you just kind of pick a random relevant metric that feels good for you? What would you recommend companies starting out, Helen?
Well, I personally don't think there's a wrong or a right. I also don't think that there's a certain endpoint to sustainability or working on sustainability either. And I think what is really important and what Daria already said is, and what her colleague said right now too, is sitting together with the company and maybe checking, okay, what are opportunities for us? What are things we can work on? What are the changes we can make? What is the impact we can make? And then work from there. And it can go very different. It can go from going for B Corp. It can say, okay, we work on reducing our footprint and focus on that first. It can say, okay, we go to our stakeholders first. There's no certain wrong or right. There might be a path that is a little bit easier or a little bit harder, but I think that any step in that direction is a good one, also for the economic and the financial security of an SME. So definitely, if you're not sure as an SME, look for a partner that can guide you in that, even if it's with setting up the meetings or setting up the brainstorms. But just go for it, start working on it, and it will always be the step in the right direction.
Thank you, Helen. I'd like to ask Daniel about your experience with you had talked about the B Corp assessments. How long does that take an SME if they were going to start this off? How much effort is that?
So, and I would like to build on what Helen was saying, and what was said before is also the fact that do not do it alone. Yeah, whatever you do, like Diego is part of this association of SMEs. Join this association, let's see what the mainstream is doing and see if it fits with you. So don't start from scratch, because if you just Google around, you go crazy. Do learn from others. Yeah, others have walked this path, so why go crazy on the first part? So these associations of SMEs are really important in just getting a first sense. The assessment, very important. The B Impact assessment, it's free online. You do not need to certify. It's just a tool that accompanies you, that measures you, that gives you guidance. It's 250 questions. It lasts, depends. If you have all the information on you, it lasts 2 hours. You answer all the questions. The suggestion would be that you take your time. There's 5 areas: governance, employees, sustainability, and so forth. And for each, there's a number of questions and ideas of what you can improve. So if you take your time, it's like a strategy document. I could do this. It's not answering yes, no, 5, 10, 20. It's taking your time to go through that. If you want to become a B Corp, fantastic. You really do not need to become a B Corp. The tool itself is a great guidance on how to go forward. So I think from what I know, the B Lab dream is for millions of companies to use the free tool. Maybe they score 30 points, they go up to 35. Multiply that by 1 million, that's a lot of sustainable improvement. So that's the key intention of that. If you get to 80 points and you want to get the logo and to say, I'm one of the best companies for the world, by all means, go ahead. And then you get audited and everything else. But the first part, you click, go online, take your time from 2 hours to 2 years, and just enjoy all the insights you get from that.
Right. And I love the reframe that you just brought in terms of moving from thinking about ESG compliance, but thinking about ESG as a learning and improvement process. I think we had one more question somewhere over there. Exactly. If you move to the microphone, then I can call you on.
Hello, Ben Butters from Eurochambers, the European Association of Chambers of Commerce and Industry, of which Helen's organisation Voka is part of our network. And hi, Helen, great to hear your presentation. And I think it really demonstrates the valuable role not just that chambers can play, but as Helen said, that business networks can play in helping SMEs with this process. My question was to Danielle, and he's partly answered it, but that this idea of a business impact assessment is intriguing to me. We often say what can be measured can be improved, and I think that what Danielle is presenting there corroborates that and contributes to that. But it also raises a lot of questions to me about how you decide whether a business has a negative or a positive impact on society. There are many different aspects to that, and it's arguably quite a subjective analysis as well, because simply by paying taxes, creating jobs, one could argue that a business is contributing positively to society, but there are many other different elements to be gauged as part of that process, and to be able to do that in 2 hours flat sounds optimistic to me. So I'd be curious, perhaps not now given time constraints, but at some point to find out a little bit more about how that impact assessment works and how many different elements and these many variables are taken into account. Thank you very much.
Great, and I think also
I'll just give you a very short.
Go ahead,
Daniel. A very short answer. So one of my many hats, I was co-founder of an SME, the Impact Hub Madrid. And so as an SME, we wanted to become and look at this assessment. And the best that we got from it is, oh, yes, we do this. Oh, yes, we do that. There was no governance. There's no documentation, nothing at all there were no processes in place that everybody could see. It was kind of done, but there was no formality to it. So I think that's also a very important thing for SMEs. from, oh yes, we do this and the other, to formalizing it, creating documentation and processes. And to me, it doesn't really matter which assessment you use, but try to make it formal, official, documented, which will help you later with all the norms and things that will come into play. So I would say that's a really strong advice for SMEs. Try to formalize, use whatever assessment you decide to use to really create processes and structures which are clear internally and externally.
Thank you, Daniel. And I think I would like to widen an aspect of that question also to the other speakers here, maybe also moving towards a closing round for this session, is like, we were speaking about the reporting on environmental, social, and governance criteria. Where do you really see the benefits for SMEs? Like, why is this a topic that you think SMEs need to invest in? Yeah.
Yep. I believe that there are also useful, these frameworks for SMEs, to give them the guidelines and necessary knowledge, because maybe they don't have it inside, but they can use it just as a guideline, and to set the minimum set of criteria which is material for their industry. Like, for example, for IT companies, they will focus on data privacy. They will focus how they manage their operation. Do they use cloud services? In this way also lower the CO2 emissions, and to make their starting point. And it is used to have it as a framework and a guideline as an SEG, and then you just modify it and tailor it in relation to your company maturity and the size, and also all these facts taken into account.
Yes. Diego, your chance for passionate plea. Why should other companies also invest in this, and why should we in the European ecosystems take this topic seriously?
Because it's a matter of reputation. And so the market in the future will take care about the reputation of the company. You know, everybody knows that now everybody talk about, you know, sustainability. All the company are green now, but in the future, the difference will be the reputation of the company. So sustainability itself is not enough. And the other point, the social and the governance can make the difference. So in my opinion, if we want that our company get value for our communities and also for our territories, this standard is the unique standard, ESG, that can be a great value for the SMEs. It's a great opportunity for SMEs.
Thank you, Diego. Helen, what recommendations do you have for us? Why do you think more companies need to think about this topic?
Well, I think Diego said it's a matter of reputation, and I think taking that even further, I think in the following years it might be even a question of a matter of success, or maybe even if we go really for survival. I think it's only going to become more important, not only from requirements or from outside questions, but also inside. We already see, for example, that especially young employees, they prefer working for an employer that takes sustainable decisions, that has a vision, that really works for a higher goal, let's say, and that's only going to increase more and more. So it's just working for yourself and working for your own future. And I think also adding what Daniel earlier said on changing from what we now see from the greenwashing sometimes, which has become green wishing. But I think those standards or the programs or the support that exists today can take us up from, hopefully, let's dig out the greenwashing, but the green wishing, and actually turn that into action, and actually turn that into sustainability policies that are part of a business policy from companies. So it's something that I think all of the people in the room today, if they take anything home with them tonight, then I'd say go to maybe the B impact assessment. I didn't know it yet, or any partner tomorrow morning and see what your impact can be, because it will only take you further and only be good for you.
Thank you, Helen. Daniel, what would you like to see in this field? What's your good wish for us?
I think there's pressures, tax, governments, laws and things. There's incentives. Sustainable companies are the most successful. There's your employees. I wouldn't like to really, as Helen just said now, your employees are really wanting to work for a meaningful company or they will leave you. So not just the worst people stay and the best people will leave you, unless you have a really strong reason for existing, something they can really be proud about. And then not only will they stay, but everybody there will give that extra bit. Why are sustainable companies more profitable? Because people are driven by a purpose that makes everything worthwhile. And last but not least, the market more and more is saying, are you sustainable? Yes or no? Are you making a positive impact on society? Yes or no? And the last item for me is that companies need to switch from selling stuff to creating hope. The company that creates hope authentically will take the whole market, will create this love brand around it that will go beyond norms and regulations and just simply be the winner there. So just go and create hope if you can.
Thank you. So really what I'm taking home from this conversation that we've had now is that, we have all these bright intentions for sustainability, for like a a nicer workplace, for social impact that we have. And this is really a tool that can help us go on a learning journey on how we can improve our companies to make sure that we are addressing all these issues, to actually, not just stay on the intentions, but to move towards having systems. We've heard about how important it is for the reputation of companies, for the profitability, but also for the attractiveness of employees overall. And what we've also heard is that, the role of regulation in this context is important, but we need to be careful with it, that we don't overcomplicate things for companies that are already struggling with enough other questions. I would like to thank our excellent panel this morning. Here with me in Porto Roche, Daya Wingent.
Thank you for inviting me.
In Madrid, Daniel Truren. Thanks, Daniel. In Antwerp, Helen Jacobs. Thank you, Helen. And in Marche, Italy, with us, Diego Mingarelli this morning. Thank you, Diego. Thank you all. And I'm handing over.
Thank you, Wiebke.
And with that, I am handing over to Moitza.
So everybody, just a quick reminder that we'll continue at 10 a.m. with our youth essay competition. So next up in this Europa Convention Hall, the competition, where you're all really very much invited because you could be participating, you can vote for the winner. There is another session in the Emerald 2 where you can join the SME Economic Performance. The title is Prospects for Recovery and Resilience in 2021. And then it's back here for the policy conclusions of this year's assembly. So really enjoying your company. Hope to see you soon.